And once more, hello to everybody watching and listening, and welcome back to Mechabellum. Ladies and gentlemen, I am playing once more against Oliver Amseth randomly on the ladder, starting with Area Specialist, with Arclight and Sledgehammer, so the same starting units, but not the same starting specialist that my opponent got last round. And unless he repositions these Stormcrawlers, things are going to get a bit spicy. He is going with Stormcaller and Crawler, which is kind of really good into my starting units, but I can kind of buy some Crawlers to distract that, so I don't think it's necessarily a big deal. He once again is playing with Supply Specialist, can't blame him. It's a good specialist, and if there's decent starting units, I tend to pick it as well. Anything else that's really happening? Oh yeah, he's just filling the board with units. Yeah, I remember now what this game was about. Ouch is all I can say for the first missile salvo. Lands on a lot of crawlers and sledges and did lock onto the sledges. But at the same time that also means that my crawlers can reign supreme and take down all of these storm crawlers over time. Let's just accelerate this a bit, because it's going to take not too long, but I don't want to make these videos longer than they need to be. My opponent does eat a bunch of damage at the first round, but going with nothing but storm crawlers and crawlers into someone who has both Arclights and sledges, it's not exactly amazing. Here I'm realizing that I am being attacked quite severely. I go for fire badgers, as does my opponent. I heard at one point that they are supposedly pretty good in defense play. My opponent apparently thinks they are pretty good in aggro play. He gets himself some crawlers. He is super vulnerable in the flank. I go for a cheeky phoenix flank here. I like to do that. I'm not entirely sure why my opponent is trying to distract at the side. I mean, these crawlers, they should be going after that flank, some of them at least. This pack here should be going into the flanks. And I do add some crawlers of my own. Where did I even put them? Oh, I put them here in the front, so they distract the missiles. Now, my opponent did gamble and lose. The phoenixes are on this side, not on the other. But I guess at the same time, that is just sometimes what happens. He eats a tower debuff, and I just have a lot of luck cleaning his units up here. These crawlers did win the fight, but they are so late, I don't think they are going to matter at all. Also, some sledges turn around and defend as the next tower degradation comes in. Now, these Arclights are not exactly fit for taking out level 2 units of that caliber, but they do get the job done eventually. He does get one of these Arclights down, and that is all that really happens here. Bit unfortunate for my opponent. He hasn't even been lucky the last game, so he doesn't seem to be luck's favorite child here. He goes for Berserk Rhino. I go for EMP. EMP, I think, if you can pick it up early, it's just good. Because in the later stages of the games, it can become pretty important, and it can definitely hurt your opponent when he goes for some units, like air units especially. He either has to go for photon overloads, or he risks all of his techs being shut down. I never actually tested. Does the photon on Sabertooths actually extend to air units as well? Would have to look that one up. We have charge shot on the Arclights because I think they are actually pretty decent into tanks, so they should also be somewhat decent into fire badgers, is my thought process. Another Arclight here to help against these crawlers. And I do go for an Arclight here, but the missile is still there. I think I deliberately did that simply to bait the missile and maybe do something else next round. My opponent has phoenixes now. And there is not one unit here that can shoot up. The phoenixes that I had, I sold. He was kind of surprised at that, but honestly, I mean, do I really expect him to leave that open? Don't think that is a realistic assumption. The Arclights do get the leveled fire badgers down. Some chaff is moving in, but let's just speed this one along, because big surprise, without anti-air you can't kill phoenixes. And in the end, my opponent just takes the round. Doesn't even lose all of his ground units, but I guess that is kinda not a surprise. Orbital bombardment, definitely worth picking up. I think Vulcan's descent is a bit too expensive. There's nothing really to do for the steel balls. And the Vulcan, I think, is just... he doesn't have enough chaff to justify it. The Orbital should hopefully be going in and killing at least some of these units, especially maybe the Stormcrawlers and Phoenixes. My opponent does actually take the steel balls because he got the subsidized steel balls, although I'm not that sure what he really wants to steel ball laser down. Now that the missile has been baited, I switch into some crawlers here, hoping to snipe that tower. My opponent, however, does drop steel balls here. I'm not entirely sure why he did that exactly, but I guess now these steel balls are being kept from engaging in the fight for a long time. I go for some wasps, which in retrospect against somebody who's probably going to pick Orbital Strike might not have been all that great. But I did go into wasps for anti-air here. I didn't really want to go into marksman against a board that is this in your face. But we shall see. I really think I placed a bad Orbital Strike here. I'm also, however, not sure if my opponent did a decent choice going for steel balls into somebody who has charge shot Arclights. And that hasn't happened this round. I think that happened last round already. The opponent does clean all of it up here, so the tower does not fall. I have some wasps, but my opponent is blinking away at them. Let's just speed this one up, while I am stuck shooting a lot of other stuff. The wasps did take out the Phoenixes here, but everything here got taken out, and 3 wasps is not enough against 2 Phoenixes. I think that would be kinda crazy if they were in this stage alone enough to deal with these Phoenixes, without being proper carry wasps at least. I did take a bit of damage, but it's not all that much. Senior defense or range specialist, the most decent choices here, I think. I skip. My opponent did take the senior defense specialist, which is going to add a bunch of HP to all of his units. So these level 2 steel balls that also now have the energy absorption, they are up to almost 17,000 health, which is pretty decent. My Arclights here, however, they also do about 2,350, so it's not that insanely much. I am now trying to bait these steel balls into following the fire badgers. They are somewhat fast-ish with 10 meters per second, so I think it can actually work. And meanwhile, we are developing some proper carry Arclights. I'm trying to bait the missile with the crawlers and then move in with the wasps. And we will see if that works. There still is Phoenixes in the way. These are level 2 Phoenixes, so they won't go down as quickly. The wasps here have not been countered last round, so I might as well go and add some levels to them and make it easier for me to deal with the Phoenixes based on the increased damage. I still have a lot of money in the bank. What do I decide to do? I drop another one of these carry Arclights and another one of the carry Arclights. Don't have the money to go into range enhancement or even elite, although it is starting to become a decent amount of levels here. For now, however, the carry Arclights are just here. I do end up getting my upgrades and buying some oil. Okay. Missile here does indeed take the crawlers out, not the wasps. But let's see if they can win this fight against the Phoenixes. They still needed to spawn in, and there's not all that many left. Unfortunately, they spread their fire out. I think if they had concentrated their fire, they could potentially have won this. Also, my wasps here did get taken out. Oh no, they did not. I just didn't see them. They were camouflaged. The tower falls, and that basically marks the end of my forces for this round. The Stormcrawlers take the carry Arclights out. The wasps not really enough to deal with the opponent's Phoenixes well enough. I guess these carry Arclights stay alive, but there is one wasp on this side left. And that is the only wasp that is left. Even under tower debuff, this is not enough to kill the Phoenixes here, I think. Yeah, they just lock on and take it out.